or not the most, but a holy name of God, and they're called holy emanations. So basically, in this order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they represent will, wisdom, understanding, beauty, mercy or love, strength, foundation, victory, glory, and kingdom. And so the fifth day over here, the fifth day are birds and fish. So this basically is mapping the 7 days activity to these 7 levels, 7 horizontal levels. And so in this view, then the number 10 position correlates with the feminine Sabbath. But if we count down directly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, like that, we get 7 over here. So that correlates. That position correlates with the masculine sexual organ. This position correlates with the feminine sexual organ. So they also have other mappings. So Yesod means foundation, and that's this number 7 position. And so it also represents the priest, which is in the passive mode and the active mode. It also represents righteousness. So when Jesus said, seek first God's kingdom and God's righteousness, kingdom is the number 10 position, and the righteousness is the number 7 position in the central column. So the central column is the tree of knowledge, according to Kabbalah. And in other words, the whole thing is the tree of life, and the central column is the tree of knowledge, where you have masculine and feminine coming together. And so when Jesus said, seek first God's kingdom and God's righteousness, he's saying, seek first the true mother and the true father and the true use of their sexual organs. That's the Kabbalistic understanding. And so even, so this number 7 position represents Joseph, who was the prime minister of Egypt, and he is referred to as representing righteousness because of the fact that he was not seduced by Potiphar's wife and was thus thrown into prison because he resisted, he didn't commit adultery. He refused to commit adultery with Potiphar's wife. And so this represents number 7 commandment, don't commit adultery. So that's so this is a very clear correlation. And so anyway, that's a typical Jewish Kabbalistic understanding. Is that number 7, number 10, they represent righteousness and kingdom. And that's what Jesus was talking about. So this 7, 8, 9 represent lineage. And the next one up represents life, and the next one up represents love. So these are 3 aspects of soul in Kabbalah, which are the nefesh, the ruach, and the neshama. So the nefesh is the level of soul that's in the blood. So that represents lineage. And then the ruach is the eternal, it's the divine, it's the divine spirit. What is it? Let's see. Ruach is, I think, probably eternal spirit. Anyway, neshama, I believe, is divine spirit. But 3 levels of spirit getting more and more subtle and more and more internal, and goes from internal to external there. So anyway, next slide is like this, and this also there's the water column, fire column, and then the air column. But when you put air, water, fire together, it produces earth. So earth is a resultant element. So this is in Kabbalah. So this is, in other words, Middle East, Asia. We have the 3 elements: air, water, fire. The 4th element is earth. Sometimes they put in ether. That's fifth element, and then you have the 5 elements of Taoism and Confucianism there. So these tend to be able to be mapped to these 4 positions in this manner, and in Kabbalah it is mapped in this manner, and saying that the earth of level 1 becomes air level 2. So in other words, output of stage 1 becomes input of stage 2. So they map that process. And so then this is where the will, wisdom, understanding, beauty, etc. So, and then the Hebrew names are that they have for those are like, I think it's Keter, Chokmah, Bina, beauty is Tiferet, and this is Geburah, this is Hesed, Yesod. This is victory is Netzach, and I believe, and the glory is Had, and the kingdom is Malkut, like that. And so this then actually is the tremendous commentary in comparison to think about these highest ideals of Judaism actually mapped to this tree of life, which can be clearly seen as having 3 stages of 4-position foundations. Or rather, you can say this is stage 1, that's the individual, this is stage 2, that's the family. And so that's the same thing over here. So this can, so just the comparison, this lends a tremendous commentary from divine principle to Judaism, and Judaism to divine principle. It's just a tremendous commentary. And lots of things that Father says, like the victory and the glory, for example. So there's a speech, Father talks about the glory of the victor, for example. And these positions, glory and victory, they represent the true parents and lineage. And this, so next slide, this one. So this gets deeper and deeper and deeper. It's just incredible. And so these 22 letters correlate to the 22 lines, rather, correlate to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So there's 3 groups. There's diagonal lines, there are horizontal lines, and there are vertical lines. So the horizontal lines represent the 3 mother letters. And so the vertical lines represent the 7 father letters, and the 12 children. 12 diagonals are sometimes called the elementals, but they can also be represented as the children letters, obviously, because they connect the horizontal and the vertical. And so anyway, they represent 22 channels. They represent the 10 fingers, the 10 toes, the tongue, and the sexual organ. And so then the 3 mother letters also represent from top down. There's the Shin, Aleph, and Mem. They're assigned to fire, air, and water. They represent 3 levels of circumcision. Circumcision of the tongue, circumcision of the heart, and circumcision of the flesh, which is the sign of the covenant between God and Abraham. So the 3 mother letters also represent 3 levels of soul, known as from the top down the Neshama, the divine soul. Ruach is the eternal soul. Nefesh is the soul that's in the blood and dissipates at death. So that would be like the astral body that hangs around, like the ghostly apparitions that people see sometimes. And one explanation of some of these is that it's the nefesh left over from a person who died, and then it dissipates. So in the Bible, it says that the nefesh disappears at death. So Jehovah's Witnesses read that, and they say, oh, that means there's no soul, and this physical world is all there is. So unfortunately, Jehovah's Witnesses misinterpreted that. And so they think that the physical world is all there is, and that only 144,000 people are going to be left finally at the second coming. And anyway, so then, so this then gets into various other processes which are mapped to the tree of life, which is as above, so below, and so that's the simultaneous appearance above and below. So this would be saying that there's something developing in a unified fashion, that there's an internal aspect and an external aspect. So Father said that every particle is half spiritual and half physical. And so we can then well imagine that everything that develops, that you can look at the spiritual aspect of it, and you can also look at the physical aspect of it. And so if we do this, we have an origin stage looking at will and kingdom as something appearing simultaneously. And then second stage, above and below, and then third stage, above and below, and finally fourth stage produces what? Produces love and strength. And so this is like the Sung Song of God and the Hyung Sung of God. And So this is amazing. And so the fact of also in the Kabbalah, the will, the wisdom, understanding produces beauty, okay, that correlates with saying that you put these elements together of the original mind, in other words, the Chokmah, or rather in, the Bon Chim produces the We, the Ji, and the Jung, I believe it was, something like that. And that's the original emotion, will, and intellect. And when you put them together, it produces beauty. So this top circle of the Jewish Tree of Life is directly saying that. And it's also relating that once you did that, then there's also expressed love and strength. So this is basically expressions of reality that are 10 holy emanations from God, by which everything can be explained. And so this is basically commentary. This is Jewish commentary on the principle of creation of divine principle. And so then this is looking at the divine principle, tree of life, two stages there, and just to compare. And so finally then, if we compare further with the model that we developed in the looking at unification thought and conjecturing and all of that, and putting together Father's love, life, lineage, and conscience in the four-position foundation there, then we have this interesting diagram that takes different aspects of the Jewish teaching and Jewish Tree of Life and relates them in this fashion. And so also very fundamental in the Old Testament and in Kabbalah is the most holy name of God. That at the destruction of the Second Temple, 70 AD, something like that, they forgot how to say it. The last person who knew how to say the most holy name of God, which could only be spoken once out loud by a priest on one day a year in the most holy place, he got killed, and the tradition of properly saying the Yad He Vav He was lost. But anyway, Father explained about the Yad He Vav He and said this represented as like omniscience. What was it? Omniscience, being all powerful, all abundant, and one other thing. So Father has commented on the Yad He Vav He, which is the most holy name of God, and and sometimes they talk about it as the Tetragrammaton, and other various names of it also. But in central providence of Judaism, to repair the relationship with God and with the angels and so forth, and then the priests were given these various revelations and instructions, and so this this commentary on the Jewish Kabbalah, which came out in, coming out more and more, but especially this particular book, the Sefer Yetzirah, this kind of thing is explained. They came out in 1990. The Sefer Yetzirah has been around for a long time, and there's various many versions of it. And so the Sefer Yetzirah translation commentary by Aryeh Kaplan was published in 1990, and he includes in there various traditions of the Sefer Yetzirah, which was passed on orally. So originally you couldn't study Kabbalah unless you're male, 40 years old, and was married, and with special permission from the rabbi. And so this is really deep stuff that even there's a whole lot more to it, and this is just a summary of some of the most critical elements and how it relates to divine principle, unification thought, and the rest of Father's explanations. So then we jump into Hindu.